Let's get this started. Highlights for the weekend?
Did homework.
Okay. All right, did homework. That's a highlight. I watched the one. I had watched the one act.
We did.
Yes. CB, Charlie Brown. All right, you got to see the Peanuts characters turn into teenagers and all the issues that go along with being a teenager. Here we go. You know, I have this vision of the Peanut characters, and now with the one act play, I'm gonna have to rethink my Peanuts characters here with that. But it's good play. So watch that and had a nice lunch with my son, and so that's my highlight for the weekend. Oh, painting as well. That could have been either a highlight or a low light, depending on. It was tricky because it's a bathroom. You got a lot of stuff you got to navigate through it as you're painting. So might have had some colorful words in there as well in that process. So hopefully you had a good weekend. All that this week. How many days do we have this week of school? 4. There we go. Are we gonna have like a regular like 5-day week, or maybe the following week? But we have a 4-day week. So just want to stay focused on that. I will be updating grades later today. So if you took the exam last night, your grade has not reflected that piece there. If you forgot to take the exam, you're gonna want to do that ASAP. All right, get in there and do that ASAP here, so we have some nice grades as it progresses, and try to really fight that thing called that senior slide. Avoid it if you can. What do you got?
Is that exam just staying open?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So it's a 60-minute window though. Once you open it, it's a 60-minute window. All right. So I've changed some of the parameters of it, so it can be open. All right. But yes. So with that, we are almost done with the authoritarian unit. We've got one little element left of it before we move on to our last unit of study. And so this one is a case study in which you will select your own authoritarian. There's a list, but you'll select from it. And if we go back and kind of like, highlight a little bit here, just go back and reflect. Let's reflect a little bit on the authoritarian state here. We looked at these 3 dynamic individuals. All right, Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. And if we could pull some like general statements, characteristics. If we look at the leaders, what are some things that we learn generally about these leaders? What do they have in common, or what makes them different, unique? What do we got? To be an authoritarian leader, what were some things that we learned? What do you got? Okay, popularity of the nation on your side. All right, it would be nice. And it does seem that they will. They may not have it right away, but they will get it. What do you got?
I think they're all really good at using fear.
Okay. Fear, control, symbols, all that stuff. Absolutely. Effective use of it. Yeah.
They're good with propaganda.
Good with the propaganda piece. All right. All right. Anna, what were you going to say? I think you did. Did you have your hand up? It's already said. What were you going to say? Charismatic. All right. You're just saying it in a different way. I don't think they actually use that word charismatic, but they are. They got charisma. We use that one, charisma. If they walked into the room, they could probably command a presence. All right. Do they know how to speak? They're very effective speakers. Even though Stalin, some would like to privately maybe critique him on his understanding of the Russian language, because after all, he's a Georgian, right? Not from the state of Georgia, but from the country or the Republic of Georgia, right? He's Georgian. All right. Conditions. If we look at their countries, if we look at these countries, what can we say about the conditions as they are on the move of becoming the leader of it? People are desperate for change. They're desperate for change. Okay, and you can see that. All right, what else? Well, that's a good way to look at. People are desperate for change. So that tells us their country, the state of their country, good or bad? Bad. All right, we'll call it a crisis state. All right. They're struggling and they have an idea. They have a plan. All right. And so let's talk about their methods. How did they rise to power then? These individuals. How did they rise to power? What do you got?
I mean, definitely like in the case of like Mao and Hitler, there was a lot of like violence,
Okay, there was violence. There was.
especially like civilian violence, just like around.
Okay. Well, if you look at Mao, there's a civil war. So there is a lot of violence. There is a lot of violence. And in between the Civil War, you had the Sino-Japanese War. A lot of violence. All right. And when you look at Hitler, his rise to power, there is some civil unrest that's going to contribute to that as well. What else can we say about their rise?
Slowly began to gain the support of the majority. The majority of the population is so desperate for something new.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. We speak about, the Nazis, and we think that the Nazis were almost a slam dunk from the beginning, but no, it's not until 1932 are they really creating these big election wins. They still don't have what we'll call a pure majority. They're still going to have to work with other nationalist groups on that one. Okay. Did they outplay their political opponents? They did. They maneuvered them. Some of their rise to power legally? Absolutely. So some of them were legal, others maybe not so legal. How do they maintain their power, though? Fear is a big part. Eliminating opposition. Yes, get educated user. So now you got to look at their policies as well. They can't always be hardcore and rest on fear. They actually do have to follow through on some of their policies. After all, they say they had a plan. All right, so policies can be another way of maintaining. As long as the policies are going well. Can we say the standard of living for people in those countries improved? Yeah, they did. They did. So now we speak of like their how far-reaching of an impact and how far-reaching are some of these policies they come up with. But when we look at their ruling their country, it comes to an end. How can we describe their endings? How do we describe their endings? Is it all of a sudden pop? If this was a TV show, I'll pop on the screen, the end? Really quickly, the end? Okay, they do have a legacy. They do have a legacy, far-reaching. I mean, Mao still has an impact. Stalin is getting revised, and many of them in Russia look at the Soviet era as a positive thing, and Stalin, his image has improved. Hitler's not so much. But when we look at in the immediacy, when they pass away, the regime may find themselves in a power struggle. In the Soviet Union and in China, there's a power struggle afterwards. And there could be some distancing, like in the Soviet Union with Khrushchev wanted to de-Stalinize the Soviet Union. But in the case of Mao's China, not so much distancing from Mao. They may not want to trash talk the guy, but they just simply understood this is what happened with Mao. We're just not going to touch it, and we'll find a way to move on. All right. So with that, we kind of have this sense of an authoritarian state. So we're going to use that to be our framework here. So what I need you to do is let's go to Schoology here, because we're going to look into our last case study here, one of choice. So let's go into Schoology, and there's a folder called Authoritarian Case Study that is full of nuggets of information that is going to be important. The assignment is the authoritarian case study, and it'll be due next Monday. So we're going to have some time to work on it, right? And I made a little bit of modification to it because of we have just some limits with our learning environment that we're in right now. So if you open up the authoritarian case study, this is the one that you're going to really want to have, because that has the tasks on it. Okay. All right. So what we're looking at here is I'm going to have you, and you can work with a historical buddy, and it should be in this section. So not someone from my first, but in this section here. You're going to put together a case study on an authoritarian. You see that there's a pool of authoritarians that you can pick from. Normally, we'd have a little competition here to see who is going to get on the Survivor show called The Ultimate Authoritarian. They were going to be put on a show with Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. So normally we would have a presentation at the end of our R&D, and there was some voting to figure out who those 7 are. We're just going to take that piece out of the process here. All right. But we want to look at an authoritarian and look at their background, kind of give us some context of it. You know, what kind of relationship did they have with their family? We knew all 3 of these individuals that we studied had a very difficult relationship with dad and a close relationship with their mom. And that played a formative piece here, right? So we want to look at their rise to power. We want to look at their methods to consolidate. We want to look at how they use propaganda and various policies, and how did it come to an end, all right? And if you notice on this list, they are coming from multiple regions around the world, continents around the world here. Some are in our own backyard, in the Americas. All right, and you're going to be able to pick it. Before we would have a lottery, but this time we'll pick it, and so we will have some duplication, and that is fine. Now on this list, though, there will be some limits, though, to perhaps finding information, to have access to it. Some of the information on North Korea may not necessarily be as accurate, or we just may not simply have as much, but he's still on the list. So we're looking at Juan Perón of Argentina, this world-class alpine skier here, who has some good staying power. His party is still in existence today, so it has some staying power. And heck, his wife, they made a Broadway musical about his wife anyhow. So, I mean, right there. Eva Perón. Juan Perón is able to lead Argentina twice in different decades, so he's able to come back from a coup. That's got to say something there. He is more of a right-winger, though. All right? You have Gamal Nasser, who's more he's more in the middle, almost like a middle way here. He is of Egypt. He was a big leader in the Arab world. Other Arab nations looked up to him. His health failed on him. All right, but the Suez Canal crisis is kind of like puts him in international prominence here back in the 50s. But of course, we know today that there had been a Suez Canal crisis as well. Big super tanker, but I think it finally got that super tanker unstuck. Pol Pot of Cambodia, he's a leftist. Now there's a guy who knows how to kill 25% of his population. All right, we'll call it the killing fields. All right, he might even be more extreme than Mao. All right, and then you got Idi Amin, sometimes known as Big Daddy of Uganda. All right, he had a lot of wives, a lot of kids. He was hardcore as well. There was a movie that came out a few years ago called The Last King of Scotland, and it was called Idi Amin. Forrest Whitaker played him. So there we go. We got Uganda. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. And so we'll look at Julius Nyerere, a product of the decolonization wars after World War II. You have a lot of nations that are being created here, like Uganda and Tanzania fits in there as well. Fidel Castro, there we go. Fidel Castro of Cuba and his nice ZZ Top beard. Able to outlast many American administrations, a pain in the United States, but a champion in the Americas to those who may oppose the United States. Augusto Pinochet of Chile, he's a right-winger. Vladimir Lenin, leftist, you know, the father of the Soviet Union. All right, so we focus a lot on Stalin. A little backstory with Lenin before we got to Stalin, but this one you're focusing more on Vladimir Lenin, or to translate Vladimir Walter Lenin. All right, Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, the guy that knows how to turn a thriving economy into a disaster. But there is some, it wasn't his intent, but here is an example of the effects of a decolonizing war and changing of policies and how quick these policies are put into practice. Robert Mugabe had been the longest serving authoritarian before a coup took him down, all right, a few years ago. You got Kim Il-sung of North Korea. He is the father of North Korea. So we're not looking at Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un here. We're looking at Kim Il-sung of North Korea, leftists. Of course, we have the godfather of fascism, El Duce, Benito Mussolini. All right, he is kind of our first real known authoritarian of the 20th century. He has probably been photographed more times than Putin without his shirt. So there we go. These are little fun facts and all that stuff. And Benito Mussolini had wrestled lions as well, even though they might have been little cubs, but he had wrestled lions. All right, and we got Francisco Franco. We've learned a little bit about him in the Spanish Civil War. Contemporary of Benito Mussolini, but also very long-lasting. Lasted much longer than Benito Mussolini, up to 1975. And of course, Saddam Hussein of Iraq. You know, we know him because of our involvements in the Persian Gulf Wars, and you know, our issues of the Iraq War, all that stuff. Saddam Hussein shows an example of going from friend to foe. We had something in common with Saddam. We did not like both the United States and Iraq did not like Iran. So there was a commonality there. All right, so those Those are the authoritarians. They come straight from the curriculum guide. So if you wonder where they come from, you pick it. Now I will need to know, hopefully today, and if I don't find out for you today which one you're going to work on and who you're working with, or if you're going to go solo, so at home, make sure you put into the chat who you're working with and your topic. I will seek you out and we'll arrive at a topic to work on. So again, 2 to 3, no 4s, no 5s. That's a game. We just deal with 2s or 3s, and especially with the social distancing piece. So we can always move around in the room, or we can sit out in the hall. If you're working with 3 together, that's fine. Now, when we talk about this was if, we were going to give it in class 7 to 10 minutes. So if it spills into 15, 20 minutes, 60 minutes, I'll listen to it. Even with 60 minutes, it'll just be a few more Diet Cokes. But I will. Seriously, I will listen to it. I have a different assignment. I had someone submit a 60-minute video with commercials. But we're looking at getting a nice little overview here of your authoritarian. That's where I say highlights versus depths and all that stuff. I do need to hear your voice. Everyone's in your group. I need to hear your voice. All right. Components of it is basically what we have done with the other 3. We want to look at the background, get that context. We want to see the rise to power. We want to see the consolidation. We want to see the policies. And policies, you don't have to go through the laundry list of policies here. You just focus on at least 3 big ones that have far-reaching success maybe, or they were just gong shows. They did not do so well. I mean, Pol Pot, he kicked everyone out of the urban areas and brought them to the countryside and wanted to be agrarian society and no more curry and let's start off thorough. That may not work. It's amazing though. You can tell how extreme of a communist he is that ultimately his regime falls because his neighbor, a communist, invades. They say, slow down, man, you are destabilizing us. All right, and that's Vietnam. That's big stuff. All right, but focus on at least 3. Decline and fall. Other key information they feel is important. Sometimes you hear me throw in there, hey, this person was 6'3". You're going to walk in, it's going to be that's going to command. Or little fun facts, world-class boxer, world-class swimmer, whatever it is. Fun tidbits, visuals, clips, audio. They led in the 20th century to the 21st century. There's a lot of information, a lot of visuals out there. So this should not just be a bunch of words. You need some visuals as well. Maybe even some clips. Throw in a minute or 2-minute clip on these individuals. You can find them. All right. Now, other things that go along with this, though, to take it to another level, I need you to look at the characteristics of the IB learner profile and determine which ones best match your authoritarian. All right. And so, again, if you went into this folder, you'd find the IB learner profile. And it'll look something like this with its definitions. Now, Pol Pot may not be scoring high as a caring person if 25% of his population is eliminated, but you might think that he's a risk taker or he's a communicator of some sort. So focus on the ones that you think and explain why. So somewhere in your presentation that needs to come out. Failure to include that, that could hurt the final grade there. You also need to include the characteristic of the totalitarian state, because you are trying to show that this person is also a totalitarian, not only authoritarian, but a totalitarian. And so when we had evaluated Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, we looked at a number of characteristics that helped us arrive at that, Stalin is 7.9 out of 10 of a totalitarian here. And these are the reasons why, right? And you don't need to use all 15 of them. Again, focus on the ones that you think showcase your individual as a totalitarian, right? Okay, and then you're also going to need to have a bibliography, all right? And so that can appear somewhere at the end of your presentation. Or you can put it on paper, or you can put that as a separate file and submit that in the Schoology, but a bibliography is needed because we're going to spend some time here on this. And we're going to have a lot of resources to work for. You can't just find one and go with it. I as a historian know that. You cannot do that. You got to look at multiple sources, and sometimes the sources may say the same thing, but that's fine because that just validates. That validates the information. Okay, and so sources. Where can I find some of the sources? Well, again, that comes with this. We have a lot of little nuggets here to start off with, depending on who you're going to work with. But also this site, IB History Totalitarianism Project, Miss Werner Thomas had put together an exhausting list. Right now it has 154 on it, but your authoritarian, even someone like Big Daddy, Idi Amin, or Pol Pot, Saddam Hussein will be on this. And that can be a nice way to launch into your research as well. So you got that as a way to find some information. You have your textbook. You also have these as well. And those that are in class, you have a cart full of information there, and I have some books on my table as well. So there's a lot of resources here, okay? And just because you find 3 good ones, you may not stop there, just keep looking. Keep looking, be thorough. All right? So when's this due? Like I said, Monday, April 5, not October, it's April. And so that means today and the rest of the week, we're going to work on this in class. So plenty of time for success should be turned in. If it's not turned on Monday, I'd be like, wow, come on, man. Should have it done. All right. So plenty of time for success. I'm not going to focus on the distractors that could prevent you from having success. So I'm going to focus on plenty of time for success. So I've had high expectations for you. All right, questions? Yes.
When do you want us to tell you?
In about a minute or two. When we're all done fielding questions, you can come up and tell me, or I can seek you out as well. So again, at home, please put into the chat your topic, okay? Any questions? All right, so I'll need to know topic and working with.